now. Welcome to Lunchtime with a Librarian. My name is Mary Bear Shannon. I am a reference librarian at the Haverford Township Free Library, and we are joined today by Margaret Fox Tully. She is our vice president of our Library Board of Trustees. That's what she does when she's not working as the head of school at Holy Child Academy in Drexel Hill. Margaret, thank you for being willing to be interviewed today, and welcome.
Well, thank you, Mary. It's a pleasure.
Great. So we had a couple of questions. The first thing is, could you just tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. I am a resident of the township for a little more than 30 years now. My husband was born in Haverford Township, and as I've discovered, people who are born in Haverford Township have deep roots and are very proud to build their homes and families there. So we've been very lucky to live in the Ardmore side of Haverford Township. I am currently at Holy Child as the head of school, but I've been in education my whole career. I was a teacher at every level, elementary, high school, and in higher ed, and an administrator in various colleges and universities before I came here to Holy Child. And I taught English for many years. Yes.
Do you
English
have a favorite book you like to teach?
Many. I would say from the years that I taught at the high school level, I loved teaching Toni Morrison's The Bluest Eye. It's a very powerful, superbly written. She's probably my all-time favorite. But superbly written and accessible in a very powerful way for young people to begin to explore issues of race in a way that I think is not presented in any other literature. It's really, and it's a very teachable, because it's so well written. You know, there are a lot of kind of literary themes and motifs. So it also makes it a gift to an English teacher to help students understand those aspects of literature.
A good one. And so what do you love most about being a library trustee?
Well, right now, of course, in recent years, what I love is I've always loved our library and knew that it was very well used by the members of our community. And now that we're in a position, hopefully, to renovate our resource, to be able to play a role in expanding the services of the library and making them even more enhanced and rich, will be a real joy, real pleasure.
It's really exciting.
Yeah.
Really exciting. And what drew you to service in public libraries?
So I've always felt really fortunate to live in our township, right? People are really invested in kind of the history of the township, as well as keeping it healthy and strong and vibrant. And so I have always felt for all these years that I wish there was a way for me to offer some service, to give back. I think, you know, political service is not for the faint of heart, and probably not my forte. But when I saw on, I believe it was a Facebook post, that the township was looking for volunteers to serve on the library board, I thought, you know, that's actually something that I could contribute to. While I'm not a trained professional librarian, I think having spent my life, you know, in education and particularly in literature, I feel a kinship with libraries. And so I thought it was a way that I had something to contribute. And for several years, I was commuting from our home to Princeton every day because I was lucky enough to work at the university. But this opening arose right after I had made the move. And I thought, you know, I don't have this terribly long commute anymore. I have a little more personal time. Our daughter is grown and leading her own independent life. And so it just felt like a good way for me to be able to give back a little bit.
Okay. And why do you think supporting libraries is important?
They are such a rich jewel of a resource for every community, right? They're all this vast scope of services and resources that are available to every member of the community. No matter whether you're, a child, a job seeker, a scholar, a young student, an enthusiast of all sorts, right? And to have those resources, and particularly to have a resource like ours that's so well run and so well resourced, I sometimes I think it's an amazing thing, right? It's the best example I can think of kind of civic service. It's your community, your government, and your township saying, "Here, we want to enrich your life, and come and take advantage of, these professionally trained and dedicated people who are here gathering all kinds of tools to help you help make your life richer." And I think a really healthy library is the key to a really healthy community. And we're very fortunate in our township to have such a well-used and I think appreciated resource.
Well said. Amen. So, what are your favorite books?
So of course I thought about that a little bit before you called. I have so many favorites. So Toni Morrison, hands down, is for so many reasons someone I kind of fell in love with as soon as I encountered Song of Solomon. Actually, was the first of her novels that I read. Ann Tyler, I think, just captures the human condition in such a rich and complicated, captivating way. I've recently learned to love Ann Patchett. I read The Dutch House and just fell in love with that. Anna Quindlen, I'm a fan of, both her nonfiction and fiction. And she, by the way, is an alum of Holy Child Academy. Yes, she is. But I loved her work long before I knew that, long before I came to Holy Child. And then also I'm a fan of Jodi Picoult. I think she is able to write very engaging fiction around, topics and issues that are complicated but important in our time and in our day. So those are some of my favorites. My probably guiltier pleasure is mysteries. Which I can devour like candy.
Do you have a favorite mystery writer?
Well, I love Donna Leone and her Guido Brunetti series. I love kind of walking the streets of Venice with the commissario and reading about all the wonderful meals his wife prepares when he gets home.
You get hungry reading it?
I do. When I commuted to Princeton, I used to listen often to, audio books. And so if I was listening to one of those, by the time I got home, I was starving. And of course, wanted to cook something much more elaborate than whatever I had planned that evening. So I do like her work. A much darker kind of mystery. I like Patricia Cornwell.
Mm-hmm.
I think she's really smart.
Yeah.
Really smart and complicated. My mom.
Corner's the hard-boiled mystery.
Yes, yes. My mom, who probably passed down her love of mysteries to me, is a huge Sue Grafton fan, and so I did read her whole series before, unfortunately, she passed away. So those are kind of my treat, my evening treat, unwind.
Right. We all need those.
That's right.
Uh, and what were some of your favorite books growing up?
Well, Nancy Drew was
Of course.
defined probably my middle school years. My friends and I would trade them and give them to each other as birthday gifts and so forth. So those kinds of classics, those series. Um, I remember, I grew up in Jersey City, New Jersey, right outside of Manhattan. So, I lived in a very urban landscape. And I vividly remember the first time I read Heidi, because it was this completely other universe.
Outside of your world.
Exactly. And being kind of captivated by that and imagining, trying to imagine what it would be like to live that life.
Mhm. Okay. Um, and so aside from reading, what are some of your hobbies?
Well, I love to cook and bake, although I'm a better cook than I think I am a baker. Um, I do, kind of the tip. I did love to travel up until very recently, and hope to be able to do that again comfortably at some point soon. Um, but I have to say, right now, a lot of my time, both during the day and in the evenings, is focused on my work here at Holy Child. It's a particularly in these last months, it's been a demanding job, but a joyful and rewarding job. We have a fantastic faculty and staff of very dedicated people who have enabled us to be open and safe throughout last school year. We certainly are preparing for that again. So I probably have less time for hobbies right now. I have visions of what I might be able to do a few years from now. But right now, cooking and entertaining on a weekend and now that we can do it again a little bit more comfortably, is really kind of refreshing and a joy for me.
Well, speaking of travel, do you have do you have places that you like to visit, and do you have anything on your bucket list?
Well, we love Maine. Maine is our family's kind of touchstone place, and we were able to get up there this past summer, this earlier this month actually, and we hadn't been for a couple of years, and we like to go mid-coast. So it's a beautiful part of the state that has both some great hiking and mountain trails, but it's on the coast. So you kind of get both of the best of both worlds. It's a little cooler and drier than it is in Haverford Township in July.
I think anywhere is cooler and drier. Well, maybe not cooler, but definitely drier.
Drier, yes, yes. So that's one of the attractions for us. This year was particularly cool. We were there over 4th of July, and the evening of July 4th, we were at a kind of harborside restaurant, and it was it was 46 degrees.
Goodness, that's cold.
It was unseasonable even for them.
For them.
And me. So that's a real favorite place. But I have been lucky enough to have visited both Italy and Ireland a few times, and they too are places where, when I'm there, I think, oh, I could live here. I could stay here. And London is a favorite city. Really fantastic.
Anywhere that you haven't been that you really
Yeah,
want?
I have never been to Paris, and
Me
everyone else in my family has, but I have still not made it to Paris. And so that's certainly a place I would love to see. And I've always wanted to see Switzerland, Austria, those perhaps influenced by Heidi all those years ago, but
Right.
they look like just such stunning and kind of serene landscapes. I'd love to have the opportunity to visit there.
Okay. So if you could live in any book universe, what would it be and why?
So I guess I'm tempted to say I could live in Venice with Guido Brunetti. Right? It's such a different life,
Yeah.
right? You either walk or get on boats to just go do your marketing, and to be surrounded by that kind of mysteriously beautiful architecture and history. It's a magical place. I remember the first time I visited, kind of walking out from that train station, and the canals are just there, and you feel like you're in a dream, and to think that people just live their daily life experiences there. You can be on a canal. I remember we took a gondola trip at night one time when we were there, and the gondolier was explaining that, this is where, Wagner lived, right? So it's unchanged, right? It looks exactly the same.
Right.
So that might be a place I would be happy to inhabit.
I think I might join you.
Sure. Plus, you eat pretty well, I would say.
Absolutely. I went as a almost 16-year-old, and I love the fact that I could get pasta at almost every meal.
And it was good.
It was
good
really
pasta.
good pasta. So we've been kind of at this virtual programming for about 16 months. Is there a favorite virtual program that the library has done that you like the best?
Well, not surprisingly, and this is the honest truth, Mary, it was your cooking classes, because I kept thinking, I don't know that I could do that. I don't know that I could. I get so kind of engrossed in what I'm chopping or mixing or stirring. I don't know that I could be mindful of, a camera. So I did enjoy watching you, and of course learning about so many recipes.
Yeah.
Particularly the ones where you had some family connection. I enjoyed hearing those stories.
I feel like I've told most of my family food stories. I may be out. I'm not sure. Yeah. Okay. Well, good. And what are you reading now?
So I am in a book group that I started when I moved here. So when I married my husband and moved to Pennsylvania, I didn't have, a big social network, and I thought a book group would be a way to do that. So we were married 35 years in April. So our little group, we've had some people kind of move in and out, but there is a core of 3 of us who have been in it for 35 years. And the other 4, probably more than 20 years. So for my book group, I am reading a newer novel called Rules for Visiting by Jessica Kane. And I'm really, really enjoying that. It's about a woman who is a landscaper, but really a botanist on a college campus, and has never married, has cared for her father in his last years, and is kind of at this reflective moment in her life. And she decides to visit 3 friends from different phases in her life, like a college roommate, and she travels because they've moved out of the home. She's still in the town she grew up in. And each of those friends, of course, causes her to reflect and explore different facets of her experiences and her life, and obviously help her make decisions about the next steps. So I'm really intrigued by it because it speaks to, I think, issues of women around my age, naturally, right? And while these are all often wonderful stories, it's really not a love story, right? It's not about her relationship with a man, or chasing a man, or falling in love, or falling out of love. Not that any of that is a bad thing, but I'm kind of enjoying that this is just about her and her own journey independently. So
What's the title one more time?
Rules for Visiting.
Okay.
Jessica Kane, Kane.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Great.
Yeah.
So this is one of my favorite questions. What advice would you give to your 10-year-old self?
To my 10-year-old self, fifth grade. I loved fifth grade. I had Miss Marquetta as a teacher. What advice would I give to myself? I think I would tell my 10-year-old self to trust, trust myself, trust yourself. Um, that that you have the capacity to do the things you want to do, the things you hope you can do.
Um, that sounds great. And then my last question is, what do you like about living in this community in Haverford Township?
Well, as I mentioned earlier, I am always amazed at when I talk to people who were born here, right, and who haven't left. Um, there's a certain degree of self-awareness in a humorous way about the fact that they've never left and they've never seriously thought about leaving. Because they can't imagine that there's any place better to live, right? So that's an amazing quality for a community. um, and I think it's people who are really, proud of its history and its longevity. My husband and his friends, I joke we could probably walk to, I don't know, 5 of the people he went to elementary school with to their homes, right? Because they all just purchased homes still in the township. And so those are wonderful friends, and terrific roots and connections. It was a wonderful place to raise our daughter. She loved, she loved where she grew up. But I think in recent years, what I love about living here is, it is becoming both a magnet for younger families, right? And so that's what you want to see. That's what brings life to a community, sustains it, and a more diverse community. And I think that is a real joy and a real gift for our community. In the same way that our school is a diverse school. And I often say to parents, I don't think the world is going to become less diverse. So what a wonderful opportunity to raise children in a richer, more life-filled and life-giving and interesting community. So I feel very, very lucky to have raised a family here, and it's a lovely place.
Great. Well, those are all the questions I had. So thank you so much, Margaret, for being willing to be part of our interview today. So that is it for Lunchtime with a Librarian. And stay tuned each month for a different person who either works or supports our library. Thanks for joining us and have a great day.
Thank you, Mary.